know when he first came there, he had some players that he was able to pull from the area. If you didn't know, Eric Gilbert actually originally played at Woodward Academy. So he built this unbelievable team when they won the state title in 2019. They actually played for the national championship afterwards. They lost that game, but since then, since 2019, that state championship run, they only had one winning season. Remarkably, I'd say in 2 of the last 3 years, they started the season really slow, but then they would have big wins later on in the season, make a run, and even compete for a region title. This year, though, they finished with just 2 wins. If you look at their schedule, though, they had a ton of close matchups, including their final game against North Paulding. So I don't think this Marietta team is in shambles. I know they have a high standard there, but I think it's a great job. I think it's going to attract a ton of applicants. Like, I'm talking dozens will be applying for this job. I think it's Richard Morgan's a guy that won state titles in multiple states, so he knows how to run a program also. But we'll see. I mean, there's probably going to be assistants within the staff that have been there for a long time. I'm sure the booster club, the alumni, they'll be involved in the process. This is a very big hire, but one of the things Coach Richard Morgan did was he brought a state title back to Marietta for the first time, I think, in like 57 years. So credit to him. And he certainly was an exceptional coach, and I think he was a little innovative in the highest classification. If you don't know, during that championship run, they never punted the ball. They never kicked field goals. They just were aggressive. They went for it on 4th down, and so he was a very aggressive offensive mind.
For sure, and we're certainly going to miss him. I'm sure he's going to land somewhere pretty soon with his coaching pedigree and what he's accomplished so far in his career. Also was GHSA State Coach of the Year in 2019, Georgia State Coach of the Year. So a lot of accomplishments for his career so far for Richard Morgan. All right, let's go to headline 2. The Wood Elite Tip-Off Basketball Classic is set. Some great matchups, Craig. Your alumni, Walton, is going to face East Paulding. That should be a great matchup in the early window. 11:30, Bethlehem Christian versus Fort Taft Prep Boys. You have Mount Bethel versus Southwest South Girls at 1 p.m. 2:30 p.m. Adairsville versus Woodstock Girls. 4 p.m. Rome versus Pickens Girls. Then 5:30 p.m. Pickens versus Gilmer Boys. 7 p.m. Cherokee versus Alexander Girls. And then 8:30 Cherokee versus Lassiter Boys.
It's a big one. I'm interested in Mount Bethel. They're going to be playing South Forsyth. This is a pretty new school. We talked to their football team at Media Day. The last 2 years, they're actually playing a full 11-man football schedule this year. But their girls basketball team has been outstanding, and they're in that tough region with St. Francis, Holy Innocents, all these powerhouses. So this is a big opportunity for them, and they are a team that, in this new format where it's going to go by overall rankings, like in the Class A through 3A private, think about Mount Bethel's a team that can earn a top 10 seed.
For sure. I can't wait to see what Walt looks like. No Luke Flynn this year, so how do they kind of return? Who will be some of those young guys they're going to depend on? Very senior-laden group last year. Be interesting to see kind of how they rebound after last season. Have a pretty good year, but how would that team look now with a new roster coming in? All right, Craig, you got headline 3.
That's right. Walton beat Wheeler last year, which anytime that happens is a historic season. All right. Clark Central football cooks up a massive culture shift to win the region. I thought this was a very interesting story out of the Athens Banner Herald. So this is Clark Central and their head coach, David Perno. He was a player there. He won 4 region titles as a player. He now has 3 as a coach. And it talks about all the differences they did this season to be able to get this program back to the top. One, they had a quarterback brought in from Arizona over the winter. His name is Hezekiah Millender. And then Coach Perno says his and his staff this offseason played chess with their roster positions. They moved senior Skylar Walter from running back, which he had played for 4 seasons since 9th grade, to linebacker for his final season. They kept moving guys around, and they really treated it as trying to find the right recipe for their team. Not many programs with a history like Clark Central are willing to go to the drawing board like they did and move guys around, but it clearly has paid off. They have some new guys that moved in from out of state, but also guys that were on the existing roster. So credit to that coaching staff. for being willing to make some changes and adaptations that have led the Gladiators back to the top.
For sure. All right, our next headline, Pope girls, Whitefield boys earn sectional meet victories. Pope had 5 runners finish in the top 10 of sectional 2 meet. Pope's Josie Hutchinson won Class 5A sectional 2 meet over the weekend, and teammate Aslan Dunn finished 3rd to help the Groundhounds win the meet victory. Pope had 5 runners finish in the top 10 as it dominated the field with only 29 points compared to McIntosh, who had 137, was second, followed by Milton with 155, Gainesville 165, Chattahoochee 166, last year to finish 12th with 313. The top 12 teams and the top 20 individual runners qualified for the state meet. Hutchinson won with a time of 18:30.04, Dunn with a time of 18:35.90, followed in the top 10 by Anna Hicks, Kate Towalski, and also Luis Delgado.
All right, sticking with cross country, which, by the way, be sure to follow the results this weekend. All right, Marietta girls claimed the Class 6A sectional. So in cross country and track and field, we've mentioned the name Tommy Latham. He is the standout from Marist, the long distance guru. On the girls' side, there is a similar star, and her name is Mary Naismith from Marietta. She had the top finish in their sectional. Her teammate also finished, I think, number 2 and 4. So Marietta is a team that's looking to defend their title. On the boys' side, last year's Class 7A state champs Harrison were edged narrowly by Denmark, 105 to 109 points total, but they still had a runner-up overall finish in the number 1 boys' time. Let's get to this real quick. He's probably the second fastest guy behind Tommy. This is Lambert's Jackson Hogshead. He had a time of 15 minutes, 19 seconds, and 45 hundredths. That is a blazing time. And Harrison's Clint Huggins was runner-up.
All right, guys, so those are our fast break headlines as well. Another one we want to mention on the show that was not in there, C.J. Wiley officially commits to the Georgia Bulldogs. That happened yesterday. No surprise here. Obviously, phenomenal talent. It's going to add a great set to that wide receivers that they have. I mean, they're going to have Taylor, who's a 5-star. But what's interesting, Craig, and I brought this up in one of my videos. Think about this, Craig. C.J. Wiley, Ethan Barbour, Elias Williams, all on one side. Defensively, potentially, right? You got Isaiah Gibson, Elijah Williams, and then potentially Justice Terry. All in 25 class.
And Landon Rolden.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I'll tell you what, I think C.J. Wiley, he is just like a college-ready receiver. What he's been doing all season long, you don't have to give him 12 targets a game. Anytime you hit him, though, he makes it count. And what he did last year as a junior on that Milton team to set himself up for this position to be the number 1 rated receiver is pretty impressive. He's able to share the role, but also anytime his number's called, you know he's going to get open, run the route how he's supposed to, and then make a play.
And real quick, I want to correct myself. That's Elijah Griffin. Forgive me, guys. Elijah Griffin for Georgia, not Elijah Williams. So forgive me on that. I just remembered in my head. All right, let's go ahead and get into the Georgia High School Football Daily Morning Review. 4 questions with Sprayberry head coach Brett Favre. I thought it was very intriguing. He asked a really good question to start. What does it mean to get this region title? He said obviously it's really special, not only as a coach, but as a former player here and as an alumni. There has not been a lot of region championships in our history. So for Sprayberry to get this one is huge. Sprayberry is one of the older schools in East Cobb, and there's really a sense of pride in the community. And remember, they won this without the star quarterback, Jaden Duckett, who was out obviously after being suspended. The next headline, obviously there in the morning review, this week's Maxwell projections. So make sure you check that out. That's very intriguing as the playoffs are kind of right around the corner and coming right up. So definitely check that out with the newsletter. And last but not least, top scoring defenses by classification. 6A, Grayson, 9.9. 5A, Hughes, 9.1. Marist, 4A with 5.5. 3A, you got Calvary Day, 8.2. 2A, Carver Columbus, who you like a lot, Craig, 6.4. Savannah Christian in the Class A Division 1, 8.1. And then obviously Metter with 8.1 in Class A Division 2. Remember, make sure you sign up for the Georgia High School Football Daily Newsletter with the QR code right there. All right, guys, it is time for some trivia. Let's go to yesterday's question. All right, Georgia linebacker Chaz Chambliss is an SEC Co-Player of the Week. He had 2.5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks in a 34-20 victory over Florida. For what Georgia high school was Chambliss a 3-time All-State player and an AJC Super 11 pick? Craig, what was your guess again?
Carrollton. I got
All right,
that one.
right on the money. So Craig gets that one right. He played All-State player for the Carrollton Trojans, who are definitely in title contention this year. All right, let's go to today's trivia question. Richard Morgan stepped down as Marietta's coach this week. Morgan led Marietta to his second state title in history. Who is Marietta's all-time winningest coach? Ray Broadway, Fritz Johnson, Dexter Wood, or Friday Richards?
I'm going to go with Friday Richards.
I'm right there with you, Craig. I'm going to go with Friday Richards as well. Rich illustrious history. We will have that answer tomorrow, right back here at the same time at noon on the Peachtree Sports Network. We're going to be coming up with Alpharetta's head coach for volleyball, talk about their dominant run.
Great teams are committed, focused on the details, and work hard to be their best. From practice to games, right down to their gear. Your field is a critical part of the game that allows your athletes to showcase their athletic abilities. Sports Turf is committed to bringing your team innovative sports surfaces with unparalleled performance. You bring the vision. Our team brings it to life.
The Georgia Sheet Metal JETC equips apprentices with the knowledge and skills required to start a rewarding career in the sheet metal industry with programs in HVAC, industrial welding, and testing, adjusting, and balancing. Training is 100% free and allows apprentices to earn as they learn. Journeymen graduate with no student debt and have the potential to earn more than most college graduates. Visit our website to learn more about this opportunity at careersinsheetmetal.com.
This makes my dad proud. He went through his whole career as an employee. Now I'm the employer, something he didn't achieve.
We are signatory to IBEW and do IBEW people wherever we go that we feel like they are faster and better than any of our competition.
The advantages of being a signatory contractor is you're trained employees. You have unlimited manpower. It allows me to bid on jobs that I ordinarily would not go after.
Man, you know how to do this? Man, I don't even know. I was flipping burgers last week.
Violation, unsportsmanlike conduct, impersonating a craftsman.
Skilled trade unions are well-trained career pros, not part-timers. Construction is a rewarding and lucrative career with the advancement potential, but you have to do it the right way with the right training. Learn how you can be a pro. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
Georgia High School Sports Daily is brought to you by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 613. Electrify your career.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. Najee Wilkins along with Craig Sager. So we're going to get into our interview with the Alpharetta head coach, Gracie Foster. Before we bring her in real quick, though, Craig, talk about the dominance of this team. You followed volleyball all year long. What impressed you most about that team?
Well, it goes back to last year. Back before we had this wonderful studio, I went to see Alpharetta beat Pope last year in the playoffs, and I came back on the show, and I was like, this is going to be the best team in the state next year. They have all their pieces returning, and just to see the way they clicked in that matchup, you could tell that they were figuring it out, and it was a huge win where they avenged a previous loss to Pope, and then sure enough, 36-0, a perfect season. And I think that's the biggest difference last year. They found themselves last year. They got to the top of the mountain. But this year, they wanted to challenge themselves every single match to really show out and challenge themselves to be the best possible team they could be, but also the best team in the state. And they did it.
Certainly. All right, well, we have Coach, the Alpharetta coach, ready to go. So let's bring her on. Hey, Coach, how are you?
Hey, great. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes, ma'am, certainly. So, Coach, I asked Craig, I want to ask you. He said when he seen you guys play against Pope, he knew you guys could potentially be special this year. Tell us, Coach, when did you know, whether it was in those off-season workouts, whether it was in preseason training, when did you know this team could potentially be special?
I think I knew last season. And I should say, too, there's a lot of people that go into coaching this team. We actually brought on a couple new coaches this year with Coach Victor Wu and Olivia Diaz. Coach King at the school, who teaches at the school as well, and just everyone that goes into making a team great, right? Like these girls prepare their whole life for these moments. And last year we had so many superstars. We lost some of those seniors, but then the other girls filled in the gap, and they were experienced in those pressure situations. So it was, I was hoping that it would all work out, and it did. And I'm so happy for the girls and their chemistry and what they had to do to make it all happen.
Now, Coach, tell us just a little bit about the development of this group, right? You said the experience that he had being in those high-pressure moments. So what is the development in terms of Alpharetta volleyball? Like, what do you guys usually do for maybe the underclassmen or even maybe like your filter program that comes in from 8th grade and comes into your program? What's the development like at your school?
That's a great point. So it starts with junior raters, and that program was started a few years before I got there. I've been there for about a decade, about 10 years, and that is a huge difference maker right there. So those people, those coaches that feed into those girls, and then the other coaches, we have a freshman team, we have a sophomore team. Those other coaches make that difference. And then the girls themselves need to commit to working all year. And so we're not allowed to do that with high school sports. They have to go and do work outside of the high school season, and they all commit to doing that.
And then, Coach, I want to ask you, just talk about the dominance. I don't know if that's more, so I'm still new to volleyball, so I want to get your expertise. When you're dominating the sets the way you are and you're not dropping any, is that more so offensively, like you're just being able to dominate on the offensive side of the ball, or is that more so like your defense is coming up big as well, not allowing a lot of points? I want to kind of get your thoughts on that.
That's a great question. And it's both. You have to have all the pieces. And so we had all the pieces to get it done. Strong players. So your back row matters so much, and your outside hitters that are both front and back. Your defensive specialist, your blocks in the front. So your tall girls up front, that they can space correctly and move correctly along the net, and know for each match, what hitters are we looking out for? What are we doing there? So both sides of that equation. We won a championship in 2020, maybe with missing a few pieces. That was, everyone stepped up and did what they had to do. But I felt like this year we had everything that we needed. And then you have to execute, right? So you can be a great team and have amazing players, but you have to show up in those moments. And these girls do.
And what's your thoughts just about next year? I know you still want to enjoy this run, but you guys are going to be in good hands. You have a lot of returning talent. How confident are you just next year going into another season, back-to-back champions, but just with what this group's going to be able to do?
Absolutely confident. We have a lot of returning players, seasoned veterans that are coming back. We're losing some huge seniors and difference makers, but these girls know how to fill in the gap, and the people that have come before them have led and shown them how. So we have a bright future. I'm excited.
And then I want to ask you about Brooke Boyles. She had a great career, I think, played over 400 sets. She went over 200 career aces, I think, in the finals. Her kill numbers this season were all career highs. Where would you rank her just career in terms of an Alpharetta Raider, and then what she was able to do this season?
Definitely one of our top players. Highly trained, hard worker, gets things done, and just continue to work on her whole game. She has great vision. She can pass well, defend well, creative with the variety of her shot selection on the outside. How would I rank her? Definitely one of the top. We've had some impressive outsides. It's a tough position. It's your outlet set. It has to be solid. And so she just had an amazing career, continued to get better. Clutch player. She played since she was a freshman, but from a freshman to today, different player. She was good then, and she's great now. I'm excited for her future years, for her college career, and definitely one of the top players for the Alpha program for sure.
That's right. So she'll be playing at the next level. I know Abigail Lee, I think she's another one committed to Georgia Tech. I've seen Tulane also. How many college players were on this year's team?
Committed this year so far, actually 4 are committed. 3 are seniors. Our liberos also committed to Tulane. And then there's other girls talking right now and, considering which college. So we have some other players that will commit as well.
And then what about Abigail's game that was unique this season? Did she have to adapt her role at all? I know I saw her last year in the finals. I thought she was really smart, but it seems like her numbers and production as kind of a set piece went up a lot higher.
Yeah, Abigail she's a smart player. It's a really hard role to be a setter. Ask any 5'1" setter. It's hard to do. You're getting pressure from your coaches on what they want and then from the hitters on what they want. So she really worked on her middle setter connection and her timing with that. Being creative with where her placement and distribution of the ball and what she was doing on defense, consistency on serves. Abby serves really hard, and she had to find a middle place too, to not go harder and harder and harder on those serves. But she has a really cool personality, in a great way of moving on to the next point. You have to. When you're leading a team like that and you're creating that offense, you have to just think next point, what can we do and how can we make that happen? Considering her options and what's going on and what rotation. There's a lot that goes into being a setter, and she handles it really well. And she's a super likable person, really cool person.
And real quick, what can you say about North Cobb? It was a great matchup. You guys were familiar with them. I think you said something about their defense just making it really tough. They're great at keeping the rallies going. But what was it about this North Cobb team that was a great opponent for you guys to match up to in this perfect season?
Just that, it's really hard when you have strong hitters and that ball keeps coming back. It's frustrating. So I thought they did a really good job with that. They have some strong hitters. In any team, when you can keep that back row up and that ball keeps coming back, it does get frustrating. I thought they did an excellent job with that. Coach Steven does a good job with that team, and they're good at moving the ball around on us too. They do some creative tips and some placement, some strategy there. So good challenging match there. And Norcross the week before was really hard. They had a lot of firing power for that team. So we're grateful that we made it this far again, and so happy for the girls and what they did. For all the coaching staff, our administration is great too. Principal Shifley, Coach Lassier, Graybeck, all our trainers. We have a lot of support and love from Alpharetta, all the teachers, the coaches. So it's a whole, team effort, everyone, and we're grateful for all of it. Our parents and what they provided for these kids and getting them in the gym. It's the best place to be, I think.
And, Coach, what was kind of your favorite moment from over the course of the season, right? We talked about you only dropping 6 sets, but what did you enjoy most with these girls and sending off your seniors the right way, the ones that are committed and going to college?
I love the practices with them. I love hearing the funny things that they say. I love seeing them being people outside of being an athlete and outside of that pressure. They're cool people. So every girl on that team, seniors and underclassmen, they're great people. Funny people, they're smart. They have other creative things that they do, and I think it's just great to see the whole player, the people that they are, and the brightness of their futures.
For sure. Well, Coach Folger, that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for coming on and shedding a little bit of light on your program, the Alpharetta Raiders, with a dominant 36-0 season, and we look to hear from you next year as well.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. All right, guys, there goes Coach, Alpharetta coach. Coming up, we will have Don Corr, the executive the Associate Director for the GHSA. Good question. I'm assuming like the composite, not the composite, I'm sorry. I'm assuming this is my train of thought today, the Power Rankings. So I was going to ask him about that. First off, just introduce him. What does he do with GHSA, being an associate director? And then give us an inside listen to the Power Rankings. Supposed to be done Saturday at 8 o'clock. How is that going to kind of look? Talk about some of the automatic bids. Like, those are some of the questions I was going to leave with. How many teams get in? I think it's 30, right? How you guys are going to do that.
My questions are so autistic. So, Mike, if Thompson's playing Burke County and Thompson wins, does that impact the strength of schedule of a team?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question, though. That's something good to ask because that all plays a factor. That's not autistic. That's a good question. Man, I like that because you're giving him a real-world example that couldn't happen. Yeah. So what would be the answer to that? That's great.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out. It's like, does it affect more than those two teams?
Yes, it's a great question. Like who would you, if they do beat them, who would you knock down because they beat them in the strength of schedule? That's a great question.
I have no idea. I wish I knew the formula because I know it exists. You'd be able to say something like, if Thompson wins by 10 or more.
Hey, Don, how you doing?
Doing well. How you doing?
Doing good, sir. Appreciate you coming on. So we got about 60 seconds from when we come back on. So we're going to mute you real quick and then bring you on in just a little bit.
That'll work.
All right.
Georgia High School Sports Daily is presented by GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com. Transform your future today. And by Smart Local 85. Sheet metal is a smart move.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. Najee Wilkins along with Craig Sager. So, guys, get ready. We're going to be talking to the Associate Director, Don Corr. Okay, I know you guys got a lot of questions about these power rankings, and we're going to have the man that's going to be a part of that process and go ahead and bring him on and talk to him. All right. How you doing today? Don?
Doing well. How about y'all?
Doing great. So I want you to kind of give a little bit of background, a little bit about your role to the audience out there, kind of the role you play for GHSA, and tell the audience a little bit about what you do.
I'm an associate director, and I'm in charge of softball, wrestling, baseball. I'm also in charge of sports medicine, and I've always done reclassification in my years down there, in my 7 years. And so when we did the change in reclass and moved the private schools out in 1A through 3A, when invented or implemented the postseason ranking formula, they gave that to me as well. So that's why I've been a big part of that as well.
And then if you can, Don, give us an inside glimpse or inside look into just how these rankings are going to work, right? A lot of people want to know just how do you guys kind of just differentiate, okay, hey, this team should be in, this team should not. What does it kind of look like on your end?
Well, we got automatic qualifiers right off the bat. Every region, the top 4 gets in. So that's automatic qualifiers. So when we pull out the private schools, that's going to allow some at-large people to get into the playoffs. So it's going to be a 5th place team or a 6th place team in a real good region where their PSR is real high. So we do that. We take the privates out. We put them in their own bracket. We see what we have left. You know, you would have 32 in a normal, but say 4 privates are in. We got 3 privates in 3A, so they're going over to the private school side. So we would probably in 3A football, we're probably going to have 3 at-large people. So once we determine, and it's based only on PSR, okay? So once we know who the people are, the automatic qualifiers, we get the PSR, make sure they're right, and then we put them in order. And then our first step in implementing putting these people into the brackets, the schools into the brackets, is we take all of the first place teams. Say there's 6 first place teams that are public schools in 3A. So those 6 schools we would note on there as being a first place. So they get preferential treatment. So if there's 6 of them, they would be, based on their PSR, they would be ranked 1 through 6. All right, then we get preferential treatment to all the second place teams. So say we have 7 of those in 3A. So we would go and start with 7, and we would go through 13 using their PSR to put them in their seeding. Once we've got the 1s and 2s in, then we go strictly on PSR, automatic qualifiers, plus the at-large that have enough, or their PSR is high enough that gets them into the tournament. So a PSR, good PSR score in a very good region where somebody finishes 5th, they could climb all the way to 14. Typically doesn't happen, but they could do that. So we would just go down all the automatic qualifiers, all the at-large, we would put them in the bracket, just going straight down by their PSR.
Now a question for you, Don. I'm gonna bring Craig in here to ask you some questions as well. But can you just define for the audience, what is PSR? Like, what is that formula? What is that metric that you guys use?
It's postseason ranking formula. It's very similar to everybody's familiar with the NCAA basketball. Everybody hears about the RPI, right? Mm-hmm. It's very similar to that. It is tweaked some because it's high school versus college. NCAA uses this in 8 or 9 sports. So it's a big thing they use there. Uh, we just implemented it, and I put a formula out there. The reclass committee and the full executive committee did some tweaking of it to kind of match it to high school. And then that's what we have. It deals with the team's winning percentage, their opponent's winning percentage without their game in mix. And then they also have the OOWP, which is their opponent's winning percentage with the opponents from we got the PSR for. So it's 3 components. The first 2 I mentioned with 35% each, and then the third component, the OOWP, is 30%. And it populates and gives us a number out.
Got you. Don, I'm following you so far. The one question I have, though, is with the A through 3A private, because you were mentioning the number ones, the region champions automatically get those top seeds. So how do you determine if a Class 3A private school that wins a region is above a Class A Division I private school that wins a region?
Good question.
All right, so you're talking about private versus public?
No, private versus private, like a 3A private school versus an A Division I private school.
Okay.
How do you determine who had the better region championship?
It's going to be a PSR. We go straightly on the PSR just like we do with the public schools. So all the private schools have PSRs just like the public schools do.
So if like, let's say Savannah Christian versus Prince Avenue Christian, they would have separate PSRs?
Yes, they will have their own PSR for playing in the competition. Their 10-game schedule will give them their own PSR, yes.
Okay, and so how much change do you think is going to happen this last week of the season with some of the remaining games? And then what do you do in a situation with Walker, where I think they said they were forfeiting their first-round matchup?
Well, they have dropped out before we started the bracket, so Walker will not be in the bracket. They don't have enough teams, enough players to participate. So they will not be in the bracket. So we will have, I think it's going to be 23 teams. So we will have 9 byes.
Okay, so yeah, instead of 24 teams in this A through 3A, it's going to be 23 now. An extra team will get a bye. Gotcha.
Correct.
And then, so in this last week, let's say Burke County and Thompson are playing each other in this last week. Is the winner and loser, is that going to impact the strength of schedule for other teams, or is this really coming down to just 2 opponents?
Yes, no, it's going to implement, it will affect their PSR, that game. Anybody that's played them, their PSR can change. So we could have a lot change tomorrow night going into Saturday. And I think we got 6 or 7 Saturday games. We're playing them all in the afternoon. That gives me time to crunch all the numbers and be on a show at 8 o'clock to give this out where everybody can see it. So,
Don, one quick question. I know you was doing a show last year. I know this is outside of football. We appreciate you also answering those questions. But what's kind of coming up for you? I know you were very involved in winter sports in spring. I know you're very involved in baseball. But will you be having another show? I do want to ask that.
Well, we've kind of started some of that early this year. We implemented those shows last year at your studio there, but right now we don't see a need. But I'm willing to jump on anything to help explain. Our ADs went through 3 sports in the fall, and I think they're the ones that have to enter everything. So I know they're the ones that have to enter everything. That's why we have one person at the school that has required to enter the schedule and required to enter scores. So we think they're really good. The basketball's it's almost completely full with the schedules for girls and boys basketball. We only have basketball is the only sport we have in the winter. So it should be easier. It's an indoor sport. We don't have cancellations because of rain and we probably would if we had a hurricane in the winter, but we don't have hurricanes in the winter per se. So it's going to be easier to handle the basketball. Now, when we get back in the spring, we're back outdoors. It's going to be difficult because we got, I think it's 3 or 4 sports that we have to deal with this. So So, but the ADs are doing a great job. They're getting a lot better with it. I know one thing, the coaches, us putting it out there where everybody can see it, the coaches are telling me things that are missing. They'll email me, I email the school, and I tell them, hey, you need to fix this immediately. It affects everybody in the whole state. Originally, some of the 5A and 6A schools didn't think it was, they were responsible for it, so they were not staying on top of it like they should, but now they know every football game is played in this state matters in the PSR. Every basketball game, every softball, every volleyball, even when you go out of state, it matters in the PSR.
Gotcha, Don. Well, that's all the time we have. I want to say thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you on Friday night as you give us a full explanation in our segments coming up in our first ever bracket show. So thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, I'll be glad to be there. Thank y'all.
All right, guys, coming up are composite rankings. Me and Craig will break it down from all the classifications and tell you some of the teams we're looking forward to seeing this upcoming weekend, also in the playoffs.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.
A journeyman with Local 85, when you turn out, you can be hitting six figures.
Hey, I have your back, you have my back. We're gonna do this together. We're one for all for one.
College just wasn't for me. Let's look into actual career jobs that wouldn't take college, where I wouldn't, lose money and all that. Instead of losing a lot more money at the end, why not make money and make more money at the end?
The Mechanical Trades Institute is an opportunity towards personal financial freedom through hands-on and rewarding work. Our school is completely free and gives apprentices the knowledge and skills required to gain access to a lifelong career path. Apprentices learn pipe fitting, plumbing, mechanical service, and welding. They earn money as they learn and graduate with no student debt. Start a career with the Mechanical Trades Institute and change your financial future.
What happens after you graduate? Will you go to the next level? Will people have your back in the heat of the battle? Will you still train like a champion in pursuit of greatness? You will when you become an IBEW electrician. Join our team. Visit IBEW613.org.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. So we got a lot in store for this segment, our composite rankings. Craig was just getting an inside look at how the bracket was shaping up and some storylines, Craig. So before we go to 6A, you brought up a great point. I want you to reveal it to the audience. You said you feel like in the quadrant or the little section that Carrollton's in, not really too many challengers. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when you look at the 6A bracket, on one side you have the number 1 and number 2 team right now. You got Carrollton and Buford. A lot of people think that's a toss-up on who's going to take the state title. So they wouldn't meet until the semifinals, and that's that entire side of the bracket. So who are the challengers? Well, in Buford's quadrant, the other region champions, North Gwinnett. I think that's a very tough matchup. Depending on the Grayson-Newton game, if Grayson wins, they'll be on the other side kind of in their own territory. If Newton beats Grayson, they'll be a challenge as well. But then Carrollton, they're going to play Decula in the first round. They've got Walton and Valdosta. That's a big challenge. North Atlanta, Peachtree Ridge, Hillgrove, South Gwinnett. I think Carrollton has an easier run this year to the finals than they've had the last 2 seasons. Obviously, a semifinal matchup would be tough, playing in Buford, playing in North Gwinnett. But in terms of getting to the semis, I think Carrollton should be able to do it. And then the other side, you have all the top matchups happening in either the first or the second round, including Mill Creek and Douglas County.
Be a heck of a contest, man.
Yep.
Like I said, we're going to talk all about it on our bracket show, but we did want to bring that up. Let's go ahead and go to 6A composite rankings and take a look at what the rest of the state has to say. All right, at 1, obviously Carrollton, 2 Buford, 3 North Gwinnett, 4 Douglas County. 5, Grayson, 6, Collins Hill, 7, North Cobb, 8, Lowndes, 9, Colquitt County, 10, Mill Creek. I do want to say this before I bring you in, Craig. I do like your rankings. I like where you got North Gwinnett. I like that you have Grayson higher than most of the other ones as well. I do think they're a good team, and I like how Collins Hill is high up for you as well. That defense travels, and nobody's going to give them a chance, but it should be entertaining to watch.
Yeah, and you got to keep Mill Creek in there because of how close they played Collins Hill. But it's interesting. You look at this poll, Valdosta's in just one of them, and that's the Max Prep. So it's been a tough stretch for them. I think you're right, though. If Valdosta returns to that tempo we saw with a healthy Todd Robinson, and then their defense, I mean, look at some of the games they've lost, 7-3, 14-10. Their defense is getting it done. It's about the offense clicking. People have to step up around Todd Robinson, and he's obviously going to give them a chance in every game. But really, I think it's interesting that heading into the playoffs, they have basically left every single top 10.
Yeah, they have, which is crazy to think about. I think as long as Todd's healthy, they got a chance in any game. They got a two-headed monster. We'll talk more about them later on in our next segment, but don't sleep on Valdosta is what I'll say. All right, let's go to 5A really quick. Leading at the top, obviously, consensus number 1 will be Milton. 2, Lee County. 3, Thomas County Central. 4, Hughes. 5, Roswell. Roswell very high up there. 6, Gainesville. 7, Coffee. 8, Brunswick. 9, Rome. 10, Woodward Academy. 11, Houston County. 12, Sprayberry. They get a little bit of love. Decatur, and then Sequoia. So then the biggest question here, Craig, is who's going to challenge Milton? Will it be Lee County, Thomas County Central, or will it be a local Fulton team that's on the other side of Fulton County and Hughes, essentially giving them a kind of a run for their money?
Well, I absolutely think Lee County is a challenge to Milton. The way that Chroma can run the ball, their defense, they're going to give up points, but they're still capable of making a big play, sparking a turnover. But I think the biggest difference between Lee County this year opposed to last year is the passing game is capable. If you want to go out there and try to load the box and stop Chroma, they're going to make you pay. Yes. And unless you have a really elite defense, and let's keep in mind, Lee County has been going up against Coffee, Thomas County Central, and they're still leading the state in offense this season. So I think Lee County would definitely be a challenge for Milton.
For sure. All I'm going to say on 5A, don't sleep on Hughes. I'll leave it at that. I'll reveal more about them later when we talk tomorrow, but don't sleep on Hughes. All right, let's go to 4A now. Leading at the top is Marist. Next, North Laconia, who I know you're very high on, Craig. 2 10-0 teams, 3 Blessed Trinity, 4 Cartersville, 5 Eastside, 6 Cedartown, 7 Perry, 8 Creekside. Can't sleep on them either, Craig. Ware County at 9, 10 Warner Robins, 11 was Stockbridge, but they obviously forfeited their losses after a self-reported violation, so they're done. Benedictine, Stars Mill, and Central Carrollton. I'll tell you what, Craig, I feel like 4A is wide open.
It is, and here's another thing. We got 14 teams right there. Where's Jonesboro? I put Stockbridge in instead of Jonesboro, but honestly, you got to rethink it now that Stockbridge has been out of the playoffs. So Jonesboro is a team, they aren't even represented in any of the polls. They just beat Stars Mill on a Thursday, could have won that region title. They are very dangerous, very capable. I think when you look at 4A, though, it's about the differences in matchups. Like, you know what Marist is, you know their identity. They're a tough matchup to a lot of teams that maybe rely on athleticism, don't have an offense that can go out there and dictate the pace. Marist and BT, that would obviously be a great, even matchup. But a team like North Oconee is unique because, one, they've been so dominant. Eastside gave them a heck of a ball game, but they have some of the best, like, explosive athletes, a great defense. I think North Oconee can be a major mismatch for some of these other teams. And then I still like Perry, Ware County, Warner Robins had a big performance. Benedictine's going to be tough. I think it's wide open, but it's going to come down to the individual matchups.
For sure. All right, let's go to 3A really quick. So at the top is Peach County, Sandy Creek, Jefferson, Westover, Oconee County, Cherokee Bluff, 7 Calhoun, 8 Douglas, Atlanta, 9 LaGrange, 10 Stevenson, 11 Northwest Whitfield, 12 Cairo. Real quick here, just to kind of watch out for. Sandy Creek is going to be a team to watch. Jefferson obviously lost to Oconee County. Oconee County's battle tested. All right, let's go to 2A. All right, 2A, Appleton County getting the top spot after knocking off Pierce County. Carver, Columbus, Craig, who I know you're high on. 4, Callaway. We talked about Tyron Bugs the other day. 5, Morgan County. 6, Burke County. 7, Carver, Atlanta. 8, Rockmart. 9, Hapeville Charter. 10, Sumter County. Really quick on this one, Craig. Give me a sleeper in 2A.
Sleeper in 2A Callaway.
All right,
100%.
Callaway. There we go. All right, let's go to Class A Division 1. All right, Toombs County, who I kept up at the top of mine as well, with close loss to Savannah Christian, really good team. 2, Dublin, 3, Thomasville, 4, Fannin County, 5, Northeast, 6, Worth County, 7, Commerce, who I really like, 8, Heard County, really good defense this year, 9, Fitzgerald, 10, Dodge County, who suffered back-to-back losses. Don't sleep on Dublin, don't sleep on Toombs County. All right, let's go to Class A Division 2. All right, this one, Manchester at number 1, 2, Bowden, 3, Irwin County, 4, Lincoln County, 5, Brooks County, 6, Clinch County, 7, Greene County, 8, Treon, 9, Metter, 10, Jenkins. Manchester, Bowden, Craig, they could be on the collision course again. Can't sleep on Irwin County, though. They're a very good team. And Lincoln County at 9-0. Deserve a little bit more love. They're going to be a team to watch as well. And Brooks County is battle tested. All right, Craig, I'll let you take away Class A through 3A private.
All right, Savannah Christian still at number 1. Prince Avenue Christian, you see them jump head run after their big win. Their consensus number 2. Fellowship Christian has been on fire lately. I thought they dominated Wesleyan. Wesleyan was able to bounce back in that loss. They had a great win over Mount Perrin last week, so they moved up a little bit in the poll. I think Calvary Day is a team we haven't seen tested as much as previous years, but they're definitely a sleeper in here. And then Athens Academy, you can't say enough about the job they did coming out of one of the tougher regions, Class A Division 1, Region 8 with Elbert County, Rabun County, Commerce, all those great teams. They were able to go 10-0.
I'll tell you real quick, Craig, we got 30 seconds before we wrap up this segment. Nobody is talking about Calvary Day and what they can do with the football this year. Thomas Blackshear, Georgia commit, they're a good team, but 8-1, nobody's talking about them.
No, they've gone completely under the radar.
Really? So
Yeah.
they're going to be interesting to watch. I think the team, the most expected challenger will be Athens Academy, like you said.
Yeah. And
to Savannah Christian.
Calvary, I think they do have one more game left because they had to move it back to the Hurricanes. So we'll see how they close it out this Friday.
Certainly. All right, guys, coming up will be our South Georgia Spotlight. So make sure you stay tuned. We're going to talk about some top teams. Who is most likely to make a run to the state championship? Come right back here on Peachtree Sports Network in our next segment. All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. Najee Wilkins along with Craig Sager. So final segment of the day on this Friday Eve, Craig, and we're going to talk about which team is most likely to challenge or can potentially make a state playoff run, Craig. I'm going to let you start it up. Give me a team you think could potentially make some noise this year.
Okay, I'm going to go with a team in South Georgia that I've been talking about all season long. That is Appling County in Class A Division I. So why have they been on the radar? One, they were in Class 2A last year. They've now beaten Pierce County 3 straight years. They beat them last week, held them to just 7 points. And then what did Appling County do in the playoffs last year in the first round? They beat Northeast Macon 49-0. They eventually lost to Cook in a tight football game. They were disappointed by that, but you've seen it. They've risen to number 1 in the rankings. And then it's an interesting situation because their season was supposed to be over, but instead they're going to play a makeup game this Friday night against Fitzgerald. It's a big rivalry game. Fitzgerald's had some bitter tasting losses in recent weeks, including to, I believe, Jeff Davis. So I think this is a tone-setting game. Appling County has ascended to number 1 in the AJC poll, at least. I have Carver Columbus up there. But I think with this team, if they can get another defensive performance against Fitzgerald, they're going to be a very dangerous team that is hungry after falling short last year.
For sure. Now, we talked about brackets, and I'm kind of torn. I really like both of these teams. They played last week. Lowndes came out on top. I like both in South Georgia. They don't get necessarily a lot of love. I think Lowndes is going to be very interesting. Now, they're going to be in a different quadrant, as Craig has mentioned, probably over there with Gracie potentially and some of those other teams. But I do like Lowndes and what they can do, right? They got a really good quarterback in Jace Johnson that not a lot of people talk about. Sophomore quarterbacks having a great year, right? 15 touchdowns, doesn't turn over the football. They can run it with Marvish Parrish and Aleem Brown. They got a really good defense as well. I think that's a team that's interesting that we should talk about as well that could potentially make a run that nobody's talking about, but could have won a region title, lost to Colquitt County, but could be a team to watch as well. And I'm telling you, Craig, I'm not going to pick them to upset, but if Valdosta could somehow, some way beat a good Walton team, I think they could potentially make some noise against Carrollton. I'm not saying they're going to win, but how they match up, the up-tempo, what they can run, that defensive front, running the football, they can potentially make some noise. But I think it's going to depend on the health of Ty Robinson. I think, Craig, he is just that special. I think every year you have a player that's that special that can help get you over the hump. I think Milton had it last year with obviously with C.J. Wiley. I feel like Todd is that player in the state that is that special that could pull off that potential upset.
I think Carrollton is just too good this season. I was really high on Kamari Farmer heading into the year. Juju in that passing attack's been so potent, they haven't really needed him. We saw the first taste of it last week against Douglas County. They knew they didn't want to go out there and try to air it out, turn the ball over. They relied on Kamari, and he balled out. So I think that's the first time we've really seen what he can do, not only running the ball, but also catching it. And Juju still went for 290. I don't know if Valdosta has as much firepower to keep up with them. I do like Lowndes. I think Colquitt, their defense is always going to give them a chance. Colquitt could go in there with a game against a team like Grayson and just keep it low scoring and come out with a field goal. I think they have the best kicker in the entire state with Fitzgerald.
They do.
And I think they could win an ugly matchup like that.
It's a good point. Speaking on that real quick, I am a little nervous on that one just because Deshaun Brown is so good. I feel like Grayson is going to take away your strength. It reminds me like the Patriots back in the day. Like Bill Belichick is going to take away the thing that you do best. And the thing they do best is run the football. They got a true freshman quarterback for them that starts. I feel like Grayson, that defense, is going to kind of have their way if they potentially play. No disrespect to Colquitt County. They're a phenomenal team. I just feel like Grayson will be more battle-tested to play. Yeah, they're a great
defense, but if they can hang with you in field position and put 3 on the board from 50 yards, they can make it tough. Just look at the North Gwinnett game. They got completely shut down and still kept it 14-3.
For sure. All right, Craig, give me one more. Give me a sleeper, Craig.
Okay, I'd say Brunswick in Class 5A.
Okay.
They have been pretty outstanding. They beat a great Lakeside Evans team. They've been pretty dominant, but I think Brunswick's the team that we could see win Class 5A.
For me, I'm going to say my sleeper. I know, Craig, you've been kind of up and down on this year. I'm going to say Perry. State championship pedigree, 4A is kind of wide open. They're a team that can run the ball with Ahmad Gore and Corian Daniels. They got a very veteran-led group, great head coach in Kevin Smith. I think that's a team you can't sleep on.
100%. Gosh, that region's really tough. I think Ware County has had some up and down. I think they can compete in Class 4A. Thomas County Central,
Yes.
the way they bounced back against the Lee County loss and dominated Coffee, that was scary. They're going to be a nightmare matchup.
Yeah, I agree, Craig. I think what's so special about them is their offense, and they got a true freshman that's leading them in receiving, and that's Gary Pringle is having a great year for them. So I just want to see the defense be able to get some stops. They got Cam Brooks, who's very good, 4-star edge rusher. They can get after the passer. Their offense is very special, so they're going to be another team that we got to watch out for.
For sure. But yes, that is South Georgia. I think there'll be a lot of contenders. I'm still going with Appleton County.
All right, he's going Appleton County. I'm obviously going with Lowndes, and it was close second, Valdosta. But guys, that's all the time that we got. Reminder, to tune in tomorrow. We're going to have our show, first ever breakfast show from 8 to 11 p.m. So make sure you come right back here on the Preachy Sports Network. And we're also going to have the reveal of our game as well tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you guys soon.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off. Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
Beginning the morning you opened your eyes, we spent every waking moment preparing you for the day you'd leave our nest. Whether it's driving to practice or helping with homework, it's all prepared you for, what am I going to be when I grow up? Will you be ready?
After much thought, I made my decision to take my talents to the IBEW Local 613.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers is not simply a job, it's a career. Visit IBEW613.org to begin a new future today.